Can we get Public Works?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Village of Bartlett Board meeting for February 18, 2025. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Here.
Gansey?
Here.
Gunstein?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Laporte?
Here.
Swansky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. We've requested that Reverend Andrew Weiss of the Faith World Outreach Church do our invocation this evening. Pastor, thank you for being here.
Father, we just come before you tonight very grateful for this community and all the great people who are in this community. We especially thank you for those who serve so faithfully, and we ask your continued protection, safety, and grace on all of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This brings us to our to our town hall portion of the meeting. Still getting used to that move. So if anyone would like to address the board, kindly step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Would anybody that's in the room here like to address the board at this time?
Hi, my name is Chase Hopkins. I live on 976 South Chippendale Drive. I'll get right to the point. I would just like to inform staff and the Board of Trustees something that's come to my attention. Tomorrow is Trustee Hopkins' birthday, also my uncle. Happy birthday, Uncle Adam.
Oh, that was so
Happy birthday.
That was nice.
With that presentation, we have to do it, right?
You want to?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lord. Happy birthday to you. Woo, speech.
Thank you so much.
You have a couple things you'd like to address the board and the audience?
Anyone else like to address the board at this time?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Philip Bozant?
My name is Phil Bozant. I live at 825 Carolyn Drive, which is the Oaks right here. And I have a thing I'd like to bring up for the board to consider. This is from the corner, the red light at the corner of Main Street and Bartlett Road, which is the CVS, which is the back street coming out of Bartlett. We go out that way. There's a left-hand turning lane on Bartlett Road at that red light. And since Audi's has opened up now, there's 18-wheelers coming out of deliveries from Audi's. And if you're sitting at that red light in that left-hand turn lane, which there's a white line in the street that you're supposed to stand behind. That's a police line. Those 16-wheelers can't make that turn. I was at that line and had to jam my car in reverse quickly, or you're taking the whole front of it out. You can't make that turn coming off of there. I would like the board to consider moving that line further back from where it's at, so that it gives him more room to make that turn.
Were you talking westbound on
It's coming from
Vaughn?
Jewel,
Jewel,
at that red light.
and then taking a left? or-
Left-hand turn, which is going out to, that's Carolyn Drive, going out to the back way, to his houses and to the Oaks.
Down Devon.
Okay.
Down Devon, right?
Yeah, I know not too long ago, we moved the one white line back a ways for semis, so we'll take a look at that. Chief, can you take a look at that? Do you understand what place he's looking at?
Discussing with staff, if I'm hearing the resident right, we don't believe that commercial vehicles should be traveling on that roadway heading that direction.
Okay, so let's make sure we look into that. need to
Absolutely.
post something. Yeah, I don't think semis are supposed to make a turn that direction.
Well, they make a left-hand turn. I
You
was
do,
there.
obviously.
I was there.
Yeah.
So I know they make that turn.
Okay. All right.
They're making a left-hand turn onto Bartlett Road going southbound, correct?
After leaving Old.
After leaving Aldi's, they're going southbound on Bartlett Road. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that stop bar is pretty far forward, and it's
Okay, we'll take a look at it. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that. Chief, you'll check into that?
Out Devon Avenue, turning onto, making a left onto South Bartlett Road.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it. I believe that's a county roadway, though.
I think so. It's about to work with Zay or somebody on county.
Yeah, we
board.
can reach out to their highway department and see
Yeah.
if they're willing to take a look at that.
Good. All right, thank you. Anyone else like to address the board at this time? Nobody in the room here? I forget his name all the time.
Dominic.
Dominic, does anyone online like to address the board?
There's no one online.
All right, thank you, Dominic. Move on to consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk will be enacted in one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on items on the consent agenda. That being said, would anybody like to add or remove anything from the consent?
Yes, we'd like to add A1 to the consent.
Does anybody have any discussion around A1? Okay.
I'd like to, Mr. President, I'd like to add items F2, F3, F4, and F5. That would only leave F1 to be discussed this evening.
Is everybody okay with adding F2, 3, 4, and 5? All right. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to amend the consent agenda this evening, which will be including the minutes from the board February 4, 2025, the minutes from the committee February 4, 2025. The consent this evening will also include the bills list from February 18, 2025. We'll be adding to the consent items A1. We'll be adding to consent items F2, 3, 4, and 5.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Swansky, seconded by trustee Hopkins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
That motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the amended consent.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Swansky, seconded by trustee Daney. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Gunstein?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
That motion carries. Brings us to our treasurer's report tonight. Matt,
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Treasurer.
Yeah.
Treasurer's report included in the board packets for the month of December. Sales tax that was collected in December was for the month of September. The amount collected was $594,776, which is up over 93% from the prior year. Motor fuel tax allotments received for December were $154,353, which is down about 4% from the prior year. And income tax, or LGDF, collections for this fiscal year are up to $4,664,743. If we were still receiving distributions based on the 10%, our total collections would be up to $7,209,803. And that's it for the treasurer's report, unless there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the treasurer? Thank you, Matt. Moving on, no president's report. Anybody have any questions for staff?
The only thing I have is I'd like to recognize a couple.
Adam's birthday again?
Yeah, Adam's birthday, obviously. And by the way, we're invited to your house for cake and coffee, aren't we?
Let's go. We can wake up the kids.
We'll be there early. I'd like to recognize a couple of commissioners for their years of service or year of service. We have Bruce Suffern, Economic Development Committee. He has 1 year of service. And our soon-to-be elected new village trustee, John Batterman, Planning and Zoning, 1 year. Congratulations, guys. That's all I have.
Thank you, trustee Daney. Any other questions or comments or issues? All right. Moving on to standing committee reports. First standing committee report is Building and Zoning Committee, Chairman Gunstein.
Thank you, President Wallace. A1 was covered under consent.
Thank you, Chairman Gunstein. Community and Economic Development Committee, Chairman Gansey.
Thank you, President Wallace. We have nothing to cover tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Gansey. Finance Committee, Chairman Laporte.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item to cover this evening. It's the village received a request. It's the U46 developer donation request. The village received a request of release of developer contributions to school district U46 dated September 18th, 2024 for the sum of $720,500, $505.42. Under the Bartlett donation ordinance, the village collects money from developers for the impact of their developments on the village and other taxing bodies, including school district U46, which is held in the village developer deposit fund. The balance in that fund as of September 18, 2024 is $720,505.42. The attached resolution authorizes the payment of that amount to the school district U46 to reimburse it for certain school improvements that are qualified expenditures as defined in the Bartlett donation ordinance. I move to approve resolution 2025-11-R, a resolution granting the U46 September 18, 2024 request for release of school donations and authorizing the release of $720,505.42 to U46 from the developer deposit fund.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by trustee Laporte, seconded by trustee Daney. Is there any discussion?
This is pretty straightforward, correct?
An ordinance. Joe, any
If
comments?
there's no further discussion, then I say let's move forward with the approval.
All right, can the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein?
Yes.
And motion carries.
No further items for the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Laporte. License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. There is nothing to report tonight.
Thank you, Birthday Boy. Police and Health Committee, Chairman Swansky.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have nothing on our agenda this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Swansky. Public Works and Golf Committee, Chairman Daney.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have F1. Here we go. This is thank you. This is the landscape, Metro Station and Town Center landscape design and building project. It's, I'm gonna see who's got this. My computer went down at home, and I transfer everything from my computer at home to this computer, so when we're sharing computers.
Here's your summary.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Tyler take that. Tyler, would you take this at this point in time? Tell us what's going on here.
I could go ahead and take it. So this is the design build contract with Burke to do the Metro landscape, Town Center, and then the sidewalk along Railroad and Main Street that we talked about previously. Since that time, we went out and got bids from contractors, negotiated with them, and Martam was the low bid. And Burke put together a contract covering both their design plus Martam's construction to get this project completed.
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the a motion approving resolution 25-12-R, a resolution approving the downtown streetscape improvement design build agreement with Burke LLC. We have a
Second.
thank you.
Moved by trustee Daney, seconded by trustee Swansky. Is there any discussion?
I don't know.
Did,
Go ahead.
but first, weren't we going to see some updates? I thought it said some updates to it in there.
Right, so when we talked about the concept or the design the last time. We talked, I think, Metro section. Most of the comments were on the town center portion. I think some of the things that we heard from the board were possible sound system, extending the stream, those types of things. So if in the agreement we have allowances that we're still looking into the sound systems and what's available there. We also have lighting on the trees that we're looking at being able to have color changing. So there's allowances built into the contract that will allow us to kind of get those things completed. We do want to know a little bit about how much of the extended stream, how much does the board want that versus what we had shown at the concept plan. It can be built in. There's money in the contract to be able to extend it. It's more of getting into the discussion of how far and that stuff. This is a 60% design, so we still have design time built in. We're hoping to start construction as soon as the weather breaks, right? I've got Jim and Bob from Burke here that can also answer any questions you may have. But we have those things that we're still looking into that can be incorporated into it. So we can, I guess.
Essentially, this is just to get the ball rolling.
This is to get everything
To have more
going.
bites at this as far as the details.
So if this is approved tonight, the final design would come back to the board for approval, correct?
If you would like that final design to come back, we can bring it back.
Yep.
Oh, out of the $2.6 million for this project, we're getting $150,000 from Metra as a grant?
Correct. That was for only the Metro portion of the right of way. Correct.
Doesn't cover anything else, just
right
stuff on their portion?
If you remember, when we originally got that grant from Metro, it was actually west of Oak on both sides of the tracks.
Yeah.
Since Metro's doing the split, or getting rid of the split platform, they allowed us to move it totally to the south side from the Depot Museum to the Metro station. So we'll be able to complete that landscape. And then when they do the platform work on the north side, they're going to incorporate our design features into their restoration portion. So they'll be completing the north side of the tracks.
Is this something that, have you guys thought about postponing this until Metra does their design and their build?
They're going to match us. All their work is on the north side of the track, so it's really independent of what we're doing on the south side. Right now, their plan is 26, 27, but delays and everything else, they've already pushed back coming to visit with us and give us an update on the project. So we can, but it's one of those things that if their project gets held up, because they have to go through IDOT, all their funding is through IDOT, and we know the fun path of going through IDOT, delays. If that's something the board wants to do, we can delay it, but I wouldn't recommend it since it is independent.
It wouldn't be done until 2030.
Possibly.
I know.
Let's wait for Metra, but we could postpone it to any time we want.
Yeah.
We can postpone.
Leave Metra out of it still, since we have other infrastructure projects that are more pressing than aesthetic projects.
Yeah, I think I was concerned at the last meeting about the economics and our fund balances and how they're trending downward. So I'm worried by spending $2.6 million on a project when at the last meeting, it didn't look too promising. So I don't know if this is like an essential project.
Well, I will say it's not just cosmetic. This is the replacement of the sidewalks that we need to do in the downtown. The fountain needs to be replaced. It's not functioning and plumbed correctly. So there are some things that we need to do. I think it's a good opportunity for us to meet the strategic plan goal that you set out to enhance the downtown. But those timeframes are entirely up to you. I do feel that we've budgeted correctly to have it in the capital budget for this year. And we are seeking some other grants, but as I mentioned to you this afternoon, they're not significant grants.
Yeah, it was budgeted. I don't know why we wouldn't just move forward and get it moving.
And I'm also concerned that if we delay this project, put it off a year or 2 years, the costs are just going to escalate.
Any other discussion?
I just would like to make sure that if it does get approved, that we definitely have the opportunity to review the final drawings and written that way in the approval.
I think it would be more than just the final. We'll be probably reviewing several different options as it goes along, right?
Well, I think at this point, we would want to finalize before we start construction, have that nailed down. So probably in the next month, we would come back with the stream. I mean, do we want the stream, I guess, is the majority. Do we want it extended or not? Do we want a sound system, knowing that there's residents nearby, those types of things? If that's what the board wants, then we will come back with a final design that shows those incorporated in the system.
So it sounds like we'll get to see every step of the way, or if it varies from what the budget is. I think what we were worried about is what it sounds like. So we did see that chart last week, so it was just like, how much is it going to be? How much is it going to cost afterwards? And what will residents think? But it sounds like there are things that we have to fix, and it's sidewalks, which has been in our plan for
Years.
I understand. Scott just reminds me that the Metro money does expire at the end of the year.
Okay.
Tyler reminded Scott, and Scott reminded you.
So when would be the next time we would see something?
Yeah, probably the second meeting in March, a month from now.
All right. Anything else? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Laporte?
Did we have a motion?
Yes.
Made a motion.
Trustee Laporte's a yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein? Hopkins?
No.
That motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Daney. Anybody have any new business that they would like to discuss? Any additional questions for staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Daney, seconded by Trustee Sowanski. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
We are adjourned. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for February 18, 2025. I call this meeting to order. Again, ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Here.
Gansey?
Here.
Gunstein?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Laporte?
Here.
Swansky? President Wallace?
Here. We begin with our town hall portion of the meeting. If anyone would like to address any items that seem to be looking like they're going to be coming up on the committee meeting, kindly step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Would anybody like to address the committee at this time? Kevin?
Good evening again. My name is Kevin Romako, Executive Director at Bartlett Park District. I guess first and foremost, it seems like the thing to do, so happy upcoming birthday to Trustee Hopkins, so I want to make sure I get that in the record. You know, once again, as I said, I'm Executive Director at Bartlett Park District. I began in May of 2024, taking over from my friend and colleague, Rita Fletcher, after her illustrious career. Prior to that, I was Executive Director at Rolling Meadows Park District for 4 years, and actually prior to that, I was Superintendent of Business Services here at Bartlett Park District for 3 years. So again, I'm here tonight to answer any questions once it comes up on the agenda that the board may have with respect to the Park District's request to have the village use its home rule authority to exempt the Park District from the Cook County Paid Leave Ordinance. And I wanted to just take the quick opportunity to try to draw a little bit of a parallel of the position the Park District is in, which is very similar to a position that the village was actually in December of 2023. And in December of 2023, that's when the state was enacting, starting January 1st of 24, its own Paid Leave for All Workers Act. And as I mentioned last meeting, the Park District was actually exempted from that. Park districts were exempted from that act, but municipalities, villages were not. And so, the village had the similar concerns the Park District has about this Cook County ordinance. I know the village, was concerned about the undue burden it put on them as an employer, how it would negatively impact the village, and also impair the village's ability to provide timely and efficient services. And that's really parallel to what this would do to the Park District as well. As I mentioned last time, the undue financial burden that it puts on the district, also the inequity that it creates for the district part-time employees, and that it's only Cook County and not DuPage County where we have a majority of our employees. So, back in December of 23, the village astutely used its home rule authority to exempt itself from the state Paid Leave for All Workers Act, but then also, very smartly, also included verbiage in there exempting from any future Cook County paid leave acts or ordinances. And so, I just kind of wanted to bring that parallel to light and trying to better explain as best I can to the situation that, the Park District is facing with the Cook County paid leave ordinance, and why we are coming to the Board of Trustees to exempt us from that ordinance under their home rule. So thank you very much. And again, I'll be here to answer any questions once it comes on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Director. You had some big shoes to fill.
Yes, they are.
Before we go any farther, I don't know if it's allowed to have two Palmers in the meeting at the same time.
Yeah, that's the truth.
All right, so first item that we have, anybody else like to address the board at this time? Dominic, is there anyone online that would like to address the committee meeting?
No one online.
Thank you. Moving right along, standing committee reports, License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. We have one item on our agenda, and that is the Bartlett Park District Paid Leave for All exemption. We talked about this in length at 2 meetings ago. It was turned down. The Paid Leave for All Workers Act was enacted by the state of Illinois in 2023. The Paid Leave Act generally requires employers to provide employees with paid leave at a rate of 1 hour for every 40 hours worked, including part-time employees. The Paid Leave Act specifically and expressly excludes park districts from complying with the mandatory paid leave requirement. While the Cook County Paid Leave Ordinance largely mirrors the state Paid Leave Act, the Cook County Paid Leave Act ordinance does not exempt park districts from complying with the paid leave requirements. With that, is there any questions from anyone on the committee?
I just would wonder why we would have any problem with helping the park district out. I just don't quite understand why we have that problem. I wasn't here at the meeting. I'm a little bit disappointed that we have a problem with something so simple as this. That's my opinion.
I would like our attorney fees that our attorney has invested in this to be charged back to the Park District. It's their request, and I think they should fund it.
I'm sure that's not a problem.
I think the community has to support one another. I remember years ago when we had, so to speak, a little conflict with the Park District, and everything is going along well now. The village is here to serve its residents, the Park District is here to serve its residents, and I think we have to work hand in hand. And, wouldn't change the way I felt about this from the first time we looked at it. I think that the two districts the two entities have to work together, and they all benefit our residents, and that's what we're elected for. We have to represent our residents, and they're doing an excellent job, and I think that they need our support, and I think, we should work with them on this. That's the way I feel about it.
I agree.
Yeah, I have no problem forwarding this on to the village board for a vote. We obviously aren't going to vote on it tonight. So.
Trustee Laporte has a comment.
I was just going to say, I don't think the Cook County taxpayers need any more increase in taxes. So I feel if Cook County gets their way, it's just it could increase the taxes for the Cook County portion of our city, and I don't think they should have to pay that.
Good point.
I just like to throw out there, I don't feel like people had a huge problem. I think there were questions, and I think it was just a process to go through it. So it was nice to hear more information, and I think it brought more to light. So thank you for that, for the extra information.
Yeah, maybe we rushed through it and not explained it quite well enough, so my bad. Good.
Any other questions? Then we'll forward this on to the village board for a vote. That's all we have under licenses and ordinances tonight.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. Finance Committee Chairman Laporte, live from Las Vegas.
Yeah, good evening. We're about to go through the fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed budget presentation, and I'll hand that off to staff to kind of go through.
Thank you, Trustee Laporte. So I'm on a time clock here, so I'm going to get right to it here. So again, this is the 25-26 proposed budget presentation. So our timeline for the next month and a half. So first, our plan is to get the proposed budget to the board on Friday. We're just wrapping up a few things. Tonight is this budget presentation. I'm just going to do a quick overview, go through some revenues and fund balances. The next meeting on March 4th, don't forget it's an early start at 6 o'clock. And we will be doing the department reviews. So the chief graciously volunteered to go first. So we have police, then planning and development, central services, and our newly created information systems department. And then if we have time, we're going to wrap it up with golf. The next board meeting, March 18th, will continue with public works, professional services, finance, and administration. April 1st.
Paula, you realize that by the time we get to administration, there's not going to be any money left. So you probably shouldn't have went last.
April 1st, we're going to have our public hearing and hopefully adopt the 25-26 budget. We are on the budget officer system where the budget has to be passed before the start of the fiscal year. So if it's not passed at this board meeting, we still have April 15th. Okay, and to the numbers. So the budget overview, total revenues came in at $73.426 million. This is down $1.869 million or 2.48% from last year's budget. Total expenditures came in at $80.74 million. This is down $4.87 million or 5.69% from last year's budget. So the main reason the overall budget changes are due to the wastewater treatment plant rehab project being completed. So we are no longer drawing down on the 2020 IEPA loan that financed this project, so that is why the revenues are going down. And then obviously expenditures are going down because we don't have those construction expenses anymore. Other reasons are the Devon excess flow project should be about wrapped up by the end of this year. And then also the Gulf irrigation project was completed. Where the money comes from. So again, total revenue is $73.4 million. 32% of that is coming from charges for services. So that's our enterprise funds. That's water, sewer, parking, and golf. 31% is coming from other taxes. So that's income, sales, use, telecom, real estate, MFT, and gaming tax. 18% is coming from property taxes. 8% is coming from other revenues, which is our licenses, permits, franchise fees, and miscellaneous. 8% is interest, and then 3% is our borrowings, which this year is just the Bluff City TIF developer note. Where the money goes, total expenditures, 80.74 million. This goes, 26% goes to capital projects for water, sewer, streets, the TIF, and other. 25% goes to public works, 24% public safety, 11% general government, so that's administration, planning and development, finance, and professional services. 10% is our debt service, so that's the GO bonds for the police station, fire station, village hall, etc. And then 4% is golf. This is just a chart showing the revenue and expenditure history for the last 10 years. So the black line is the revenues. So you can see these last 2 years, it's really come down. And again, that's because of the IEPA loan. We're receiving not as much in fiscal year 25 and none in fiscal year 26. The red bar is our operating expenditures. So you can see that's really gone up these last few years. So in fiscal year 25, it went up for a variety of reasons. One is we had that backlog of vehicles we were waiting on. I think it went back over almost 3 budgets. We received all our vehicles. So that was almost $2 million we received this year, all the vehicles. Police personnel had a decent jump with the police union agreement being finalized, so we had a bunch of retro pay in this current year. Police pension payments went up with all the retirements we had, and the DuPage Water Commission costs went up as well. For this year, fiscal year 6, it's going up mainly due to starting to pay back the sewer IEPA loan, which is going to be about $2 million a year. And then the blue bar is our capital expenditures, which again are going down due to the wastewater treatment plant and Devon sewer projects wrapping up. Operating expenditures by type, so 51% is for personnel. That includes $4.2 million for police pension. Contractual services is at 21%. The big one there is the DuPage Water Commission water bill. 21% for other charges includes our debt and liability insurance. And then we have 4% for commodities and capital outlay. Now I'm just going to go through some of our major funds, starting with the general fund. So total revenues in the general fund are $33.115 million. This is an increase of $818,000 or 2.53% from last year's budget. The main reason for the increase is we are budgeting for a full year of auto mall sales tax, and then there was also a slight increase to the income tax. Just a reminder on the auto mall sales tax, 50% is going back to the auto mall for the rebate agreement, and the other 50% is going to the 59 and Lake TIF to repay the loan from developer deposits, sewer, and municipal building funds. This loan dates back to 2006 and was used to purchase land. The balance is at about $4 million. Total expenditures is at $31.753 million. This is an increase of $4.59 million or 16.91% from last year's budget. Again, as we've talked about, this is coming from the capital budget. The funds that are coming out of the general fund. So again, this is the town center improvements, the Route 59 underpass bike path, downtown sidewalk renovation, and sidewalk improvements and stormwater improvements. So you're going to see this when Dan and Tyler present the streets budget. Net transfers out was $5.427 million. This is mainly the police pension levy. The money comes into the general fund, and then we transfer it out to the police pension fund. It also includes central services and transfers to central services and vehicle replacement. So our expected fund balance is $20.57 million. Again, this is a decrease of $4 million. As we've talked about, this is coming from the capital budget. The The board saw this at our last board meeting, so I'm not going to really get into it, but the blue bar is our estimated fund balance. So again, by 28, 29, you see it really dipping below the minimum. And again, this is why we are seeking to increase our home rule sales tax. I wanted to show this slide to show that 80% of our general fund revenues come from 4 sources. So 24% is coming from our general corporate property taxes, 24% comes from income taxes, 20% from regular sales tax, and 12% from our home rule sales tax. I'm just going to go through these major general fund revenues. So again, the general corporate property tax budget is $7.269 million. So this is the amount we're going to bring to the board next October for the 2025 levy. So this is no increase from the 2024 levy. The last increase was for the 2023 levy in the amount of $750,000. And again, this was to capture the taxable value from the closing of the Brewster Creek TIF. State income tax, or LGDF, we are budgeting $7.25 million. This is an increase of $225,000, or 3% from last year's budget. The state distributes this on a per capita basis. Until January 2011, 10% of total state collections were distributed to municipalities and counties. Currently, the percentage is 6.47%. We get our estimates from the Illinois Municipal League, and their latest per capita estimate is $178.27. So that's how we came up with the $7.25 million. Regular sales tax, we're budgeting $5.9 million. This is an increase of $950,000, or 19% from last year's budget. The village receives 1% of the 6.25% state rate on purchases made within the village. So the increase, as I mentioned before, is based on budgeting for a full year of the Bartlett Auto Mall sales tax. It's also based on this act that went in effect on January 1st. It's called Leveling the Playing Field Act 2.0. So this act was designed to level the playing field between Illinois-based retailers and remote retailers by imposing state taxes on both, not just Illinois-based retailers. So some revenue that we collected as local use in the past will now be collected as sales tax. I take this as a good thing because I think it'll also increase our home rule as well. And then just a reminder, our state grocery tax, or the state grocery tax was eliminated, and that will start January 1st, 2026. We're estimated to lose approximately $250,000 annually. And then home rule sales tax, again, this revenue source will be brought up at the next board meeting to increase the home rule rate from 1% currently to 1.75%. But as of now, our rate is 1%, so my budget numbers are going to reflect that. We are budgeting $3.5 million. This is an increase of $500,000, or 17% from last year's budget. So the village receives the 1% on general merchandise purchases within the village and some online purchases. No grocery, no medical. Taxes collected by the state and distributed to the municipalities. The increase is based on trends and what we are currently collecting. Home rule tax began in Bartlett in July 2018. And then our three next biggest revenue sources are building permits, local use, and interest. So building permits, we are budgeting $900,000. This is an increase of $50,000, or 6% from last year's budget. This is based conservatively on 120 new residential construction permits at Grasslands and 6 commercial permits. Local use, budgeting $800,000. This is a decrease of $900,000, or 53% from last year's budget. Again, this is due to that leveling the playing field act. So again, we're not losing this money, we're just collecting it as sales tax. So we receive this revenue based on a per capita rate. The latest IML update was $19.60. This is down from $42.18 last year. We are budgeting $800,000 for interest income. This is an increase of $50,000 or 7% from last year's budget. But it's up from the budget. It's down from our current year estimate of $1.2 million. The Federal Reserve did reduce the Fed rate by 100 basis points in 2024. So we have started to see interest rates come down, but we will continue to keep an eye on that going forward. On the motor fuel tax fund, so total revenues, $3.15 million. This is an increase of $965,000 or 44% from last year's budget. The reason for the increase is we are budgeting $980,000 for a surface transportation program grant. Total expenditures are $6.2 million. This is an increase of $4.5 million or 16.91% from last year's budget. And as we talked about at the last board meeting, this is due to budgeting $4.275 million every other year for the MFT maintenance program. So this is the year we are budgeting for that. Expected fund balance, $3.795 million. This is a decrease of $3.3 million, again, due to this capital improvement. This is another chart the board saw at the last board meeting. So again, the green is the estimated balance. So by 28-29, we're getting pretty low, and that's why we are requesting the municipal motor fuel tax of 3 cents per gallon. MFT fund revenues are the MFT allotments, which are budgeting for $1.8 million. This is an increase of $10,000 or 1% from last year's budget. The state distributes this on a per capita basis. Their latest estimate is $44.74 for fiscal year 26. And again, we have that grant for $980,000. Everyone still awake? Water fund overview. So total revenues, $13.691 million. This is an increase of $140,000 or 1% from last year's budget. Total expenditures are $15.55 million. This is a decrease of $3.324 million or 17.61% from last year's budget. The expenditures are down due to the water main replacement program budget of $3.5 million being done every other year, so this is an off year. Fund balance, expected fund balance is $4 million. This is down again due to big water capital projects. The big ones this year are $2.25 million for the water meter change-out program, which I believe is going to be finished early in 26, 27. And then there's the water tower painting of a $985,000, which is for the Stearns Road Reservoir. So our water fund balance chart here. So the blue is the minimum balance, red is the maximum, green is our estimated balance. So I'm going to say this chart is a little misleading. So this chart was based on our capital budget, but Todd pretty much took out the water main replacement program to make it work with the funds we currently have available. So in 26, 27, we would normally budget the $3.5 million for the water main replacement program. This only has $700,000 budgeted. And 28, 29, the project was pulled completely. So I think obviously this project needs to be done. So if we added it back into the fund balance, by 28, 29, we would be at a negative $4 million. So again, this is why we will be doing a water sewer study.
What project are you speaking of?
This is the water main replacement project. So we budget $3.5 million every other year.
And why did Mr. Dowden take it out?
During the capital discussion, we put together, if you'll recall, we had year one was funded with the funds that we had currently in reserve in that, but years 2 through 5, we assume no rate increase or revenue source, additional revenue source, whether general fund, water, or sewer. So we showed years 2 through 5 of basically depleting the reserves to a point where it got below, with the idea that we would do a water and sewer rate study to determine what we need to do to basically fund that capital program, just like we're doing on the general fund side with the home rule sales tax and the gas tax. So similar type thing. So you'll be seeing the water and sewer rate study information shortly. The plan is to get that done by this fall so that when we get into discussions of capital again, we would start to look at what options you would like us to do to fund those programs. Right. We slowed them down just based on assuming no rate increase or no revenue source. So if the board chooses not to generate any revenue, then we would continue to slow, do the smaller projects. But if we find a revenue source, we'll adjust the budget according to what's being brought in.
Our water fund revenues, charges for services, so that's what we bill for water, as well as water connection charges and water meter sales. So we're budgeting $13.49 million. This is an increase of $90,000 or 1% from last year's budget. This is just based upon consumption history with no proposed rate increase for this year. The last rate increase was effective May 1st, 2023, and it was for 3%. The average residential monthly water bill in the proposed budget is $75.60, and this is based upon 6,000 gallons of usage. Again, and then for interest, we're budgeting $200,000. For the sewer fund, total revenues are $7.335 million. This is a decrease of $3.385 million, or 32%. Again, this is due to the wastewater treatment plant being completed, so we are no longer drawing on the 2020 IEPA loan. Total expenditures are $8.98 million. This is a decrease of $5.8 million, or 39% from last year's budget. Again, this is due to the completion of the wastewater treatment plant, and the Devon excess flow project will hopefully be completed by the end of this year as well. So the expected fund balance is $5.223 million. This is a decrease of a little over $2 million. And again, this is due to budgeting $2 million for the Country Place lift station rehab, as well as we're starting to pay back that 2020 IEPA loan, which is about $2 million a year. Here's the sewer fund balance policy. Again, the blue is the minimum, red's the maximum, green is what we estimate our balance to be. So by 28, 29, again, we're dipping into the negatives. So again, a lot of this is just due to the $2 million yearly repayment of the IEPA loan. Sewer fund revenues, so charges for services, $7.19 million. This is an increase of $290,000 or 4% from last year. This is based upon consumption with no proposed rate increase. The last rate increase for sewer was effective May 1st, 2022, and that was 5.1% for Cook County and 8.6% for DuPage County. Average residential monthly sewer bill in the proposed budget based upon 6,000 gallons is $25.78 for Cook, $46.96 for DuPage, and $19.19 for Kane. We are budgeting $120,000 for interest. Golf fund, total revenues $3.412 million. This is a decrease of $1.122 million or 25% from last year's budget. This is due to the irrigation project being completed, so the golf is no longer receiving the loan from the Developer Deposits Fund. Total expenditures are coming in at $3.198 million. This is a decrease of $1.1 million. Again, this is due to the irrigation system being completed. Expected fund balance is negative $1.066 million. This budget is reducing that negative balance by $145,000. We know golf was hit really hard by the pandemic. We're trying to climb our way out of that. Fiscal year '24 is one of golf's better years, so they had a positive change in fund balance of just about $250,000. So we're just going to hope that trend continues here. So golf course revenues, we are budgeting $1.77 million. So again, this is your 18-hole, 9-hole, season passes, cart fees, range balls, and the simulator. So the revenue is based upon estimated golf rounds as well as various rate increases. So you can see our golf rounds are continuing to do really well since COVID. So again, we hope that trend continues. Pro shop sales, so that's your clothing, golf balls, golf gloves, etc. The budget is $94,000, no change from last year. Food and beverage revenue is coming in at $1.291 million. This is an increase of $63,000 or 5% from last year's budget. So the increase in revenue is based on 38 to 45 weddings. This is about 8 more weddings than we've had in prior years. Again, from this chart, you can really see how food and beverage sales have taken off since COVID. So again, that's a trend we hope continues here in the future. And last but not least, our internal service funds. So we have our central services fund. We made a few changes in this year's budget. We created an information systems department. So that's our IT and GIS staff. So their salaries have always been charged to central services. There's no change there. The only real change was they were part of the finance department. So now they're their own department within the central services fund. We also moved some items out of central services that we felt didn't really belong there to begin with. So these were items like the printing of the Bartlett, code red, village weeds enforcement, and then police building maintenance. So a lot of these items were moved to departments within the general fund, mainly administration and police. And these items totaled $174,900. Our transfers into central services were $1.727 million. This is no change from last year's budget. The vehicle replacement fund, we have a total of 8 vehicles scheduled to be replaced in this budget, totaling $850,000. And again, all our vehicles that were on back order, we have received in our current year, so that's good news. Transfers into vehicle replacement are $783,132. This is up 14% from last year. The main reason for this is I increased the streets transfer into the vehicle replacement fund by $150,000. The price of their plow trucks has almost doubled in cost, so that's the reason for that. And to conclude, so we are presenting the board with a balanced budget with the use of fund surplus that is within our budget policy. This includes no new taxes or fees as of yet, no increase to the general corporate property tax levy, no proposed water or sewer rate increases. Personnel costs include a 3.75% cost of living increase for non-union employees. And again, our capital improvement projects totaled $21 million. That's all I have. I would just like to end with thanking especially Paula and all the department heads and staff for making this seamless transition for me this first time. I really appreciate it. And again, next month we'll be going into this all in detail, but I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Matt.
We'll have a lot of them when we go through it.
Thank you.
So yeah, just to reiterate the timeline that we have here, Matt. So that's the overview. February 18th, March 4th, we'll start the department reviews, line item by line item. So sharpen your pencils.
How much do we have to think, like looking ahead to the future obviously does not look great. So like what are we looking for this year other than raising all the different taxes. So what are things that,
We definitely have a lot of infrastructure projects this year and going forward, as we've talked about. So I think it was to be expected. We do have a good cushion to work with here with our fund balances, but that is, again, why we're looking at revenues going forward.
because we've won awards in the past, right? Isn't it like the GFOA?
Don't confuse this with our audit. He's just giving the raw numbers with no increase in any type of fees, taxes, or anything else.
I'm not confused
No
with.
changes. The financial situation is solid when it comes to our overall picture of the village. He shows these balances going down just so we can prepare for what's going to happen in the future if we don't make any changes or adjustments. And small changes can make a huge difference. That one fund balance, $2 million, puts it right back in 27, 28. So,
I do want to reiterate, too, usually we end up a lot better than what we project, just because we're conservative on our revenues and we never reach our.
So it looked like we're really good, like we were in really good standing with the COVID money, but now that that's gone, like the level playing field.
Yeah, the COVID money definitely helped our position, and we've seen an increase in sales tax numbers and income tax numbers. So we've been trending in a really good direction. I think it's just these infrastructure projects. You know, I mean, what is it, the Country Creek? What's the?
Yeah, Country Creek
Sewer
is-
project. I mean, that's $9 million right there. I think that'd be tough for any village to sustain those kind of numbers. So, but again, we've built up a really good balance here, so.
And Country Creek doesn't have any other like outside funding? I forget what.
To keep people's backyards from falling into the creek. We have looked at some grants for it.
Right now, what we're showing is none, but we are trying to turn every rock in every place that we possibly can to try to find some revenue to help fund some of that project.
All right, if there's no additional questions, we can look forward to March 4th at 6 p.m. The department reviews.
Oh, we're starting early.
Dinner's at 5:30.
Questions? Did you have some more?
No, I'm good.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Chairman Laporte. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
By trustee
Second.
Daney, seconded by trustee Gansey. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein? Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.